Today, I want to talk to you about a powerful mindset shift that can change how you move through life. Act as if every decision propels you forward. It's easy to feel stuck. We've all been there, questioning our next move, doubting ourselves, or wondering if the choices we're making really matter. But imagine what would happen if you believed that every decision, no matter how small, was a step toward your growth. That mindset alone can ignite clarity, confidence, and momentum. It changes the way you approach your day. Suddenly sending that email, showing up to the meeting, learning that new skillet all has purpose. You're not waiting for something big to happen. You're making it happen. Acting as if every decision propels you forward doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means you'll always learn. It means you trust your process and invest in your future with every choice you make, because motion, not perfection, is what creates progress. So today, make that call, take that risk. Choose action over hesitation, because when you act as if every decision propels you forward, you stop waiting for success and start walking toward it. Our mind, that is the lens through which we interpret our experiences, challenges, and opportunities. It colors how we see the world, how we react to setbacks, and how we engage with our goals. When we adopt the belief that every decision we make has the potential to move us forward, we begin to shift from a passive state to one of purposeful intention. This mental shift isn't just about being positive. It's about taking control of your internal narrative and believing that what you do today matters, not just for now, but for your future self. Momentum isn't always created by massive wins or dramatic breakthroughs. It often begins with how we think. A strong, forward-looking mindset acts like a generator. It fuels our ability to take action even when circumstances are uncertain. When you believe that your current step will lead to a better place, you gain the energy to keep moving. Without that belief, even the smallest challenges can feel overwhelming. Mindset doesn't remove obstacles, but it does determine how you face them. One of the most powerful elements of momentum is that it feeds on itself. When you take a small action and you believe it has meaning, that belief encourages you to take the next one. Over time, that consistency builds confidence. It's a cycle. The right mindset encourages action, action builds progress, and progress reinforces the mindset. This is how momentum is sustained, not by waiting for motivation to strike, but by thinking in a way that keeps you moving. This concept also highlights the importance of mental discipline. It's not always easy to think positively when life throws unexpected difficulties your way, but even during tough times, choosing to act from a belief in progress, however incremental, can shift your trajectory. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "How can I use this to grow?" That single reframing can turn a perceived loss into an opportunity for advancement, and it all starts in your mind. When you internalize the idea that every decision propels you forward, you start seeing your everyday tasks through a new lens. You're not just sending an email. You're building a network. You're not just working late. You're proving your dedication to your goals. Each decision becomes meaningful because it's part of a bigger picture. This mindset can transform even mundane activities into stepping stones of purpose. And when you find purpose in your actions, momentum naturally follows. It's important to understand that the right mindset doesn't require you to feel inspired 100% of the time. What matters more is that you choose a mindset that supports your growth, even when motivation is low. That choice made repeatedly forms a habit, and habits shape identity. Before you know it, you're no longer acting as if every decision propels you forward. You are someone whose decisions consistently do. The beauty of a momentum-driven mindset is that it empowers you in every environment. Whether you're thriving or barely surviving, Your mindset is something you can control. External conditions may fluctuate, but your belief in forward movement can remain steady. That belief becomes an anchor when things get turbulent, and a compass when the path ahead isn't clear. You don't need all the answers to move, you just need to believe that moving matters. In a world that often glorifies outcomes over process, choosing to focus on mindset as your source of momentum is a radical act. It's a declaration that you value growth over perfection and direction over speed. You begin to realize that it's not the size of your step that counts, but the intention behind it. By aligning your thoughts with your desire for progress, you turn every decision, no matter how small, into a meaningful investment in your future. Progress is rarely built through one defining moment. More often, it's the result of dozens, hundreds, even thousands of small, seemingly insignificant choices that quietly compound over time. The meals you choose to eat, the words you speak to yourself, the 5 minutes you spend reading instead of scrolling, all of these actions form a pattern, and that pattern, whether intentional or not, becomes the foundation of your habits, your mindset, and ultimately your life. It's easy to underestimate small decisions, but over time they are what shape your identity. Every small choice you make is like a vote for the person you want to become. When you choose to wake up on time, when you exercise for just 10 minutes, or when you stay calm during a stressful conversation, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who is disciplined, resilient, and intentional. These aren't grand, headline-worthy events, but they matter deeply. The accumulation of these choices forms your character, and your character determines your destiny. No decision is too small to count when it's made consistently. We often hold ourselves back by waiting for big opportunities or dramatic changes to signal the beginning of a new chapter, but in truth, transformation begins with the smallest actions, often made when no one is watching. A 5-minute walk, a single healthy meal, one email sent, one kind word spoken. All these can seem inconsequential on their own, but like drops of water filling a jar, these small efforts eventually create something full and powerful. What feels like a slow grind in the moment often turns into massive change over time. When you view small decisions as insignificant, you give yourself permission to neglect them. This is a dangerous trap. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal until it becomes 2, then 3, then a habit of inconsistency. On the flip side, choosing to stick with your plan, even just a little, builds trust with yourself. It's not about perfection. It's about staying engaged with your values through small, steady effort. That effort builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Another reason small choices matter is because they're often the most sustainable. Grand gestures burn bright but fade fast. However, a habit formed by small, repeated actions is durable and lasting. It becomes part of your routine, part of who you are. People who succeed long-term don't rely on motivation alone. They rely on structure, habits, and the quiet discipline of making the right small decision over and over again. That's where true change begins, not with a leap, but with a step. Think about it. Every major accomplishment is really just a series of small, repeated actions. A book is written one paragraph at a time. A career is built one task, one meeting, one connection at a time. A relationship is strengthened one meaningful conversation at a time. The final product may appear sudden, but its foundation was laid with persistent, almost invisible effort. When you begin to recognize this truth, you'll stop underestimating your small decisions and start treating them as investments. The cumulative effect of these choices also gives you a quiet power. You start realizing that you're not at the mercy of luck or circumstance. You are actively shaping your future. Every day you are placing bricks in the structure of your life. Some days the bricks are large, other days they're small, but all of them matter. With each small decision made in alignment with your goals, you're not just surviving the day, you're building a life, and what you build consistently will eventually become unshakable. Most importantly, small choices create the feeling of progress. Even when you're not sure where the path leads, those little steps prove that you're still moving. They remind you that you have agency, that you're not stuck, and that your life is constantly evolving, even if change isn't visible yet. These small wins stack up emotionally and psychologically. They give you the fuel to keep going, to dream bigger, and to trust in the slow, steady process of becoming who you're meant to be. One of the biggest misconceptions people hold is that progress is something you stumble upon, a sudden breakthrough, a lucky opportunity, or a bolt of inspiration from the universe. But the truth is, progress is not something that finds you. It's something you actively build, piece by piece, through your actions, decisions, and commitment. Waiting for progress to happen to you is like standing in a field, hoping a house will appear. If you want it, you have to construct it. Brick by brick, day by day, this mindset shift from waiting to building is critical. When you believe progress is built, you stop searching for shortcuts and start investing in the process. You understand that true success doesn't come from a single moment of brilliance, but from consistent, repeated effort. It means accepting that there will be days when you feel like nothing is happening, and yet still choosing to show up. Builders don't stop when they don't see immediate results. They trust the structure is forming underneath, even before it becomes visible above ground. Building progress requires patience and resilience, because the early stages often feel like you're working in the dark. There are no guarantees, no applause, no visible proof that you're on the right path, and that's exactly why many people give up. They mistake silence for failure, but those who understand that progress is built know that quiet, consistent effort is not wasted. Like laying a foundation, it might not be flashy, but it's essential. Without it, anything you build later will collapse. It also means you have to take ownership. If progress is built, then you're the builder. You can no longer blame your circumstances, your past, or your environment for your lack of growth. That doesn't mean life won't be unfair, or that the journey will be easy, but it does mean that you are not powerless. You have tools, your time, your decisions, your discipline, and what you do with them determines the structure you create. That sense of responsibility can be intimidating, but it's also empowering. There's something deeply human about the act of building. It taps into our instinct to create, to improve, to leave a mark. When you build progress intentionally, you're engaging in that same instinct. You're shaping something that didn't exist before, a stronger mind, a healthier body, a deeper relationship, a meaningful career. Each act of effort, no matter how small, is a contribution to that structure, and over time you'll look back and realize that everything you have was crafted by your own hands. Another important element is adaptability. Builders don't stop working when a blueprint changes, they adjust. When progress is your construction project, setbacks are not signs that you should abandon the work. They're signals that you may need to tweak your strategy, upgrade your tools, or reinforce your foundation. Building is not a straight path. Sometimes you tear down part of what you made so you can build it back stronger, but the key is to keep going, to stay in the process no matter how the shape evolves. Progress also becomes more sustainable when it's built rather than chased. If you believe progress is something out there, you'll keep running after it, never quite catching up. But when you build it from within, it becomes part of you. It's not a destination, it's a lifestyle. You stop asking, when will I get there, and start focusing on how to keep growing where you are. That mindset creates a grounded sense of direction, one that doesn't rely on external validation to feel fulfilled. Lastly, building progress teaches you the value of the journey itself, the process of constructing something meaningful, whether it's a goal, a mindset, or a life, shapes who you are. You develop skills, patience, humility, and perspective. The person you become while building is often more important than the thing you build. You don't just arrive somewhere better, you become someone better. And that transformation is the truest measure of progress there is. Failure is often seen as the opposite of progress, but in truth, it's one of its most essential components. When we treat failure as a full stop, we cut ourselves off from the very lessons that could move us forward. But when we shift our perspective and recognize that failure is not a dead end but a directional shift, it becomes part of the progress itself. Failure, if embraced with the right mindset, is simply feedback. It's information about what didn't work, so we can learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Many people fear failure because they associate it with shame or inadequacy. They see it as a reflection of who they are rather than what they did. But failure isn't a verdict on your worth. It's a snapshot of your process. If you can separate your identity from your outcomes, you begin to see failure as a teacher, not a judge. That shift in thinking turns failure from something to avoid into something to learn from. And that's when real growth begins. It's important to remember that no path to success is linear. Every journey includes stumbles, wrong turns, and moments of doubt. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world reached their breakthroughs only after a series of failures. What separates them from others is not their ability to avoid failure, but their ability to keep going in spite of it. They didn't let the fall define them, they used it to refine them. They understood that falling down isn't the opposite of moving forward. It is moving forward, just in a different form. Failure has a unique way of revealing your blind spots. It exposes weaknesses, gaps in knowledge, or areas where you were overconfident. While that might feel uncomfortable, it's also incredibly valuable. These insights are difficult to gain through success alone. When things go right, we rarely stop to analyze why they did. But when things go wrong, we're forced to examine, reflect, and course correct. In that way, failure becomes one of our greatest learning tools. If we're willing to look at it honestly, it also builds emotional resilience. Every time you fail and choose to get back up, you strengthen your tolerance for discomfort and uncertainty. You build grit, the ability to persevere when things don't go as planned. Over time, you stop fearing failure because you know you can handle it. That confidence makes you more willing to take risks, try new things, and step outside your comfort zone. And that's where real progress happens, not in safety but in challenge. Failure also helps you define what truly matters to you. When you try and fail at something, it forces you to ask, do I still want this? If the answer is yes, you'll come back with more commitment and clarity. If the answer is no, you've gained direction by elimination. Either way, you've moved forward. Sometimes we don't know what's right for us until we experience what isn't. Failure, then, isn't a diversion. It's a clarifier. Another powerful truth about failure is that it humanizes you. It reminds you that you are not perfect, and neither is anyone else. This humility can make you more empathetic, more grounded, and more connected to others. In a world that often pressures people to appear flawless, the ability to own your failures and keep going is a form of quiet courage. It builds character, and character is the foundation of long-term success. Ultimately, when you adopt the belief that failure is forward, you remove the fear of trying. You give yourself permission to be imperfect, to experiment, and to grow without the burden of always getting it right. That freedom is powerful. It turns your journey into a laboratory, not a performance. Every setback becomes a step, every mistake becomes a message, and every failure becomes part of your forward motion. Because failure is not the opposite of progress, it is the path through which progress becomes possible. Perfection is one of the most persistent illusions we chase. It promises validation, acceptance, and success, but always stays just out of reach. In contrast, purpose is grounded, steady, and deeply human. It doesn't require you to be flawless. It only asks that you be intentional. Choosing purpose over perfection means you stop obsessing over getting everything right and start focusing on doing what's meaningful. This shift liberates you from the paralysis of perfectionism and allows you to make real, impactful progress. Perfectionism often disguises itself as ambition, but it's rooted in fear. Fear of failure, of judgment, of not being good enough. It creates pressure to delay action until everything is just right, which frequently results in inaction, overthinking, and missed opportunities. Purpose, on the other hand, is rooted in clarity. When you are driven by purpose, your actions stem from a deeper understanding of what you value and why it matters. You move forward not because everything is perfect, but because you're aligned with something bigger than your ego. When you prioritize purpose, you give yourself permission to be in motion, even if the road is imperfect. This is vital for momentum. Waiting until you're fully confident, fully skilled, or fully prepared often leads to stagnation. But when you're motivated by purpose, you accept that imperfection is part of the journey. You're not trying to be impressive. You're trying to be intentional. And in the long run, intention is far more sustainable than image. Purpose allows you to focus on the process, not just the outcome. While perfection is obsessed with results, purpose is committed to consistency. You begin to show up day after day not because you expect immediate success, but because you believe the work matters. That belief keeps you going even when progress is slow or invisible. Perfection says, "This isn't good enough. Stop." Purpose says, "This is worth it. Keep going." One shuts you down, the other lifts you up. Another benefit of choosing purpose is that it nurtures self-compassion. When you're chasing perfection, every mistake feels like a personal failure. But when you're anchored in purpose, you begin to see mistakes as part of the learning curve. You stop punishing yourself for being human. This doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you change your relationship with growth. You understand that excellence is built on experience, and experience includes missteps. In creative work, entrepreneurship, relationships, and personal development, perfection is the enemy of progress. It leads to over-editing, second guessing, and never sharing your voice with the world. But when your goal is to serve a purpose, whether it's to help others, express your truth, or contribute to something meaningful, you stop hiding behind the illusion of flawlessness. You step forward, imperfect but present, and that authenticity is what people connect with the most. Purpose also makes your journey more resilient. When things get difficult, and they will, perfection offers no comfort. It only highlights how far you've fallen short. But purpose provides direction, even in failure. It reminds you why you started, and why it's worth continuing. This inner drive becomes your fuel when external validation fades. It keeps your vision alive through seasons of doubt, distractions, and discouragement. Purpose is your compass. Perfection is just a mirage. Ultimately, choosing purpose over perfection shifts your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to appear flawless. You become someone committed to growing, learning, and making an impact. That kind of identity is powerful. It allows you to embrace your imperfections as proof that you're evolving. It turns every choice into an act of alignment, rather than an attempt to impress. And over time, this grounded, purpose-led approach doesn't just move you forward. It transforms you from the inside out. In a culture that glorifies all, or nothing efforts, it's easy to believe that the most dramatic, intense bursts of action are what lead to success. We see overnight transformations, viral achievements, and sudden leaps as the standard of progress. But the truth is far less glamorous and far more sustainable. Consistency is the real driver of lasting change. Intensity may spark movement, but it's consistency that keeps you in motion. It's the quiet, repetitive rhythm of daily effort that truly shapes results over time. Intensity relies on motivation, but motivation is fickle. It comes and goes, often depending on mood, energy levels, or external circumstances. Consistency, however, is built on discipline and routine. It doesn't ask how you feel, it asks who you're committed to becoming. When you choose consistency over intensity, you remove the pressure to do it all, and replace it with the power to do it again. That repetition creates momentum, and momentum is what builds meaningful, lasting progress. Small, consistent actions compound in ways that intensity simply can't match. Reading 10 pages of a book every day might not feel impressive, but it will add up to over a dozen books a year. Walking for 20 minutes a day might not seem transformative in the moment, but after several months it becomes a habit that strengthens both your body and mind. Intensity tries to cut time. Consistency works with it, leveraging its quiet power to magnify your effort. Consistency also builds trust, first with yourself, then with others. When you show up every day, even in small ways, you begin to prove to yourself that you can be counted on. That self-trust becomes foundational. It's the difference between starting over repeatedly and steadily moving forward. Others begin to recognize your reliability as well, and that reputation becomes a form of currency in relationships, business, and leadership. People may admire intensity, but they rely on consistency. Another critical advantage of consistency is that it allows for learning through repetition. When you do something regularly, you start to refine it. You learn the nuances, the shortcuts, the efficient paths that only experience reveals. Intensity often leads to burnout before mastery, but consistency fosters slow, steady improvement. You begin to optimize through doing. With each repetition, you don't just maintain effort, you deepen it. You become better, not just because you work hard, but because you work smart over time. Emotionally, consistency creates stability. When life becomes overwhelming, having a routine or a steady practice gives you something to return to, a thread of normalcy and purpose. Intensity thrives on extremes, consistency thrives in the ordinary, and it's in the ordinary that the foundation for greatness is laid. Champions are not made in moments of excitement, but in the uncelebrated grind of daily effort. Whether you're working toward fitness, financial goals, creative projects, or personal growth, showing up again and again is the real superpower. Consistency also encourages sustainability. Intensity often leads to crescendo, burn cycles. You give everything for a short period, then stop altogether. Consistency, on the other hand, allows you to pace yourself. It's built for the long haul. Instead of sprinting and collapsing, you walk with intention, knowing the journey is long and worth it. You give yourself space to rest without quitting, and that balance makes your effort not just productive, but enduring. Ultimately, the most extraordinary transformations don't come from rare acts of greatness, but from regular acts of effort. It's not about one perfect day, it's about 100 imperfect ones where you still showed up. Consistency honors the process over the performance. It teaches you that growth doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. And when you embrace consistency as your path, You stop chasing quick fixes and start building a strong, unshakable foundation for lasting success. Life is not a fixed state, it is a continuous evolution. The idea that you are always becoming speaks to the truth that no moment is stagnant. With every decision, every action, every thought, and every experience, you are shaping who you are. This doesn't only happen when you make a big change or reach a milestone. It's happening constantly, subtly, day by day. You are not a finished product. You are a living process. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you are always in the act of becoming something, and that realization is both empowering and humbling. Too often, people see identity as something static. They define themselves by their past or current circumstances. I am this, or I'm not that. But the truth is, identity is fluid. You are not limited by who you were yesterday, nor are you bound to stay who you are today. When you embrace the idea that you're always becoming, you give yourself permission to grow, to change direction, and to outgrow old versions of yourself. You realize that even your failures, insecurities, and fears are not permanent labels. They are chapters, not definitions. Every choice you make is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but it does mean your habits, mindset, and reactions are shaping your character over time. The person who decides to practice patience, even when angry, becomes more patient. The one who chooses courage in the face of fear becomes braver. These small moment-by-moment decisions stack into the structure of your future self. You're always writing your story, even in the smallest actions. What makes this idea so powerful is that it puts the future in your hands. You don't need to wait for a magical moment of transformation. You don't need to hit rock bottom or wait for the stars to align. The process of becoming is already in motion. It's simply a matter of steering it. You can begin to shape your becoming today, right now, by aligning your choices with the kind of person you aspire to be. Progress becomes less about speed and more about direction. It's not about who's ahead, it's about where you're going. Understanding that you are always becoming also helps soften the fear of not being enough yet. You can recognize that growth is not a race. It's a lifelong unfolding. There is no final version of you to arrive at, no ideal self waiting to be unlocked by a single accomplishment. Instead, you can begin to appreciate each stage of your evolution as necessary and meaningful. You are not behind, you are becoming, you are not failing, you are forming. This shift in perception can bring peace and purpose to even the messiest seasons. This mindset also cultivates grace for yourself and for others. When you see everyone as a work in progress, you stop expecting perfection and start appreciating effort. You become more compassionate with your own struggles, understanding that stumbling doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. And you extend that same understanding to others, recognizing that they, too, are navigating their own process of becoming. This perspective builds deeper empathy, healthier relationships, and a kinder inner dialogue. You are always becoming is not just a motivational phrase, it's a call to awareness. It reminds you that your life isn't something happening to you, it's something you are actively participating in. You can either drift or direct. You can either resist change or engage with it. The more conscious you are of your becoming, the more intentional you can be. And when you are intentional, every day becomes a new opportunity to live in alignment with your values, dreams, and deeper truth. In this ongoing journey, progress doesn't mean constant forward motion. Sometimes becoming involves unlearning, letting go, or returning to your core. Sometimes it means sitting still long enough to hear what your heart is really saying. But no matter where you are or what season you're in, you are still becoming. You are still evolving, still creating, still capable of rewriting your future. And that awareness, that quiet, persistent truth, can be the guiding light through both triumph and trial. In conclusion, the journey of growth and progress is not a straight line. It's filled with twists, turns, setbacks, and victories. By embracing the idea that every decision propels you forward, you realize that progress is not a destination. It's a process. The small choices, the daily habits, and the persistent pursuit of purpose are what lead to transformation. You understand that failure is not the end but a part of the forward motion, and that perfection is not required for success. Purpose and consistency are the true markers of achievement. You are always becoming. This truth frees you from the pressure to be perfect and opens up a world of possibilities. It invites you to take the next step, even when the path is unclear, because you know that with each step you are shaping who you are and who you will become. The power lies in your hands, in every decision, and in the courage to keep going, no matter the obstacles. So, the question is not whether you will succeed or fail, it's about whether you will keep becoming. Will you continue to grow, to evolve, to show up even when things get tough? Because every choice you make is part of a larger picture, part of the person you are becoming. And when you embrace that truth, you'll realize that you were always destined to move forward, to build, and to create something extraordinary, not despite your imperfections, but because of them. The journey may not always be easy, but remember this: every decision you make, no matter how small, is pushing you toward the future you're creating. Embrace it, live it, and know that you are always becoming the best version of yourself with every step you take.